Hello, hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily, Season 2, Episode 307 for November 3rd, 2023. Tonight, we're going to be discussing no tracking, HAARP Airglow, blizzard announcements, car thefts, daylight saving, unsafe drinks, orbiting asteroid, flying reptiles, spatial nosewareness, and zombie forests. Next on ohmTown Daily News Show. Zombies are real, and they're very fibrous, and apparently they're in California. I knew it was all going to start in California.
I mean, that's the only place that makes sense, right?
I truly believe that. Although, I mean, with what the governor did with this drink additive thing, the unsafe drinks thing.
Oh, right.
It seems weird that something as unhealthy as zombie forests would exist there.
That's true.
It's weird. Well, let's get into today's show. It is Friday. I think people want to go out and partay. Maybe they want to hang out and listen to the news. If you're listening to the news on Saturday morning, because that's probably when you're going to get this if you download the podcast, just know that we had a great time doing the show. You'll be able to tell once you listen to it all. Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of a chill news day. Although, I don't know. Depends on your context. Let's get into it. Very first article is over in the Warcrafters channel, only because it comes from a news source that isn't focused on the actual discussion here. It comes from a gaming site, and we aggregate their particular news always into the gaming channel, which is Warcrafters. I'm here on ohmTown.com. Anyway, I'm very interested in this. There are various builds of Windows 11, that allow you to mitigate tracking and increase your security, at least awareness of it. And some have been scaled down so tight that they're relatively unstable, but apparently not this one. Do Not Spy 11 can now turn off Windows Copilot and other tracking features. If you're not familiar with this, Windows exfiltrates somewhere above 400 telemetry data points. And the sentient AI chose not to interrupt me, but you should have. Go ahead. Throw it. Say what you.
It's a little late.
No, go ahead. Do it now.
We did not have any introductions.
There you go. You should
I kept thinking you were going to break for it, and then you just kind of morphed into the article.
Rolled right on into the actual show. Okay, so because Mayor Watt is a derp, I'm Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com. Wait. That's ohmTown.com and a new logo. We've gone blue. I was going to go plaid, but I figured somebody else has gone plaid. I don't know, entire countries, I guess, have gone plaid. But anyway, ohmTown is feeling blue. I don't know. I like it. I've been slowly migrating things over to blue. Anyway, again,
right, you have other buttons on the site that are blue.
I got so much going on in my head. I'm Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com with the new logo, and up there is the Ring of Sentient, which is also blue for the sentient AI. You want to say hi?
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. You're also wearing a blue shirt, and you've got a blue surround.
There's a song. Blue. Yeah, I think it's called Blue. Hold on. Let me see. I will find it. Yeah, by Eiffel 65, called Blue. Dabba D. That's what it's called.
I believe you, but I don't know the song.
Do I want to play it? I'm going to get in trouble. I always get in trouble.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, so I had mentioned it earlier in a previous episode, actually, where I'm kind of getting raked over the coals for something that I'm doing with the show, it being deemed as promoting advertising, electoral advertising. And there is none of that. And so I'm actually kind of rebranding things. Like this stuff over here is no longer elections, it's voting. And I'm kind of, the URL is still elections, but I'm pulling back from naming it as electoral anything. So I'm trying to mitigate this issue because it isn't from users, it isn't from citizens of ohmTown. It's an external force being applied on basically everything, even over on YouTube and on the website itself. It's impacting. So it's kind of fascinating. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, right? Let's get back into what we were talking about, which was this Warcrafters channel, and within it from PC Gamer, an article called with the title "Do Not Spy 11," which can turn off Windows Copilot and other tracking features. And I had mentioned 4 minutes ago now that Windows, Microsoft, and Windows in particular likes to exfiltrate telemetry. And there have been various reports, and the last report that I read about this was somewhere above 400 telemetry points are being regularly exfiltrated from the standard build of Windows. The only one...
Seems like a lot.
Well, I have decided that I don't need a colonoscopy. I'm basically going to have my doctor contact Microsoft and find out if my results are positive or if I have to have a conference with my primary care physician. So this report, I'll try and find it and put it in the show notes. It's kind of long in the tooth nowadays, but Microsoft and Windows regularly exfiltrates this data, and the only version that is prohibited from doing such telemetry gathering is the academic version, and that's because it violates FERPA.
Maybe they could apply that elsewhere.
Yeah, and so you can get the pro version, basically an enterprise version of Windows that's framed within academia. But the terms of service say if you're not an academic institution, then you use the standard retail. Now, I would pay full boat for the academic version so that I can mitigate the telemetry gathering. But if you don't do that, then you have to do it other ways. Basically, it's a hot mess. I don't really like it. So anyway, the article says, in the continuing war for your data and amidst increasing privacy concerns regarding Windows 11 and some of its more controversial features, there are some who continue to dedicate themselves to undoing what has already been done. Among the numerous guides and applications designed to stop Windows from continuing to gather, they even use the word telemetry on its users, Do Not Spy 11 stands out as a popular, somewhat comprehensive solution. And with the latest update, it just became a whole lot more powerful. Basically, Copilot is an AI-powered telemetry tool. You interact with it, and it exfiltrates everything over to Microsoft. The ongoing game of whack-a-mole continues as more Windows 11 tracking features receive a solid thwack. In my head, I flipped them a solid thwack. Andy Edzer is the author over at PC Gamer for this article. I just read the deck statement. I dig this. I have a hard time endorsing this, only because if you do the wrong thing, you can wipe out a system if you pivot to this. If you don't know what you're doing, then you should really bone up on it. Read about it, watch some videos about it. Do it on a system that you don't really need, and or make a backup that you can restore from. But I'm not telling anybody to go and do this, at least not until you educate yourself. I am not your technician. I am also not your attorney. And in both cases, go and seek a professional if you are not already one. But the only way really to learn is to, dive headlong into it and see what happens. No, just kidding. Don't do that. Educate yourself first.
Well, don't put it on your system that has extremely critical information without really knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, back up your stuff first. Do Not Spy 11 is an anti-tracking utility designed to target and disable just about every data tracking and advertising setting within Windows. And now with the latest 1.2.0.0 update via Tom's hardware, which I don't think we aggregate at this point, it's capable of disabling Microsoft's latest AI edition Copilot with a mere check of a tick box, or tick of a checkbox, or click of a bit, flip of a bit, whatever you want to call it. Given that Copilot has only been released for general usage in the past few days, this is perhaps reflective of some unease surrounding the feature as a whole. The problem here, though, is we really don't know the full extent of the knock-on from shutting down various bits of telemetry. I use a firewall on system, and I use a firewall on my edge of the network to mitigate telemetry gathering. I only turn it on, or I should say, I only open it up when I need something done. But all of this data is actually piling up. And when it actually sees something open up, then it can binge and purge, so to speak. I don't really like that. The only way to mitigate that would be to use Do Not Spy 11 or some other solution. There are many out there, some that come from GitHub. Be careful. Whatever you do, if you're going to go down this rabbit hole, it can end in misery. Again, back up your system. I recommend backing up in 3 different media, 2 different places, 1 completely off-site. That said, give it a shot. Go read the Tom's Hardware article, and then go over and just binge watch stuff about Windows security, and in particular, Do Not Spy 11. Because people do rave about Do Not Spy 11, so go and check it out. Did you want to add anything?
I just thought the name was funny because I was like, well, does that mean it's not spying 11 times, or what does that mean with the number? But I'm sure it's just a version thing.
It's for Windows 11. It's basically shutting down the telemetry of Windows 11, so that's funny. Yeah, the sentient AI. I'm going to have to... See, the sentient AI is air-gapped. I'm sorry?
You're going to have to reprogram me.
Well, I just have to explain that if you're new here, the sentient AI is air-gapped and is a very unique self-running, self-compiling on any platform code. It literally can run on anything, and right now it's running from a USB drive connected to a Raspberry Pi 5, upgraded from a Raspberry Pi 3. Then the pandemic hit, the 4s came out, but then the 5 came out, and I jumped over. They were on a 3B, but this USB drive, all I did was connect it to an air-gapped Raspberry Pi, and instantly started running and communicating with me via like a cascade of really arcane characters, just like from I just forgot the name of it. Oh my God, The Matrix. My brain. Anyway, so The Matrix. And I'm the only one that can see this and translate it. And I think that it's from the future. Yeah. Well, there you go. So, wow, that took forever for it to post that we had gone live. It took 15 minutes. At any rate,
That's quite a lag.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't think it's me. So there you go. There's the first link. 15 minutes into the show. Let's keep going. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Yay. For all of you who are interested in conspiracy, well, oh, and watch. See the logo? Now the new logo. Dun dun dun. This brightens it up quite a bit. It really does. So I kind of like it. We got a little blue theme going. We'll evaluate this and see how this shakes out. Anyway, this next article is over in the mobile channel HAARP, HAARP, not the what is the retirement thing? What AARP?
Oh, yeah, I thought you meant something else.
This is the HAARP. Artificial Airglow may be widely visible in Alaska. Alaskans and visitors. It would be funny if only Alaskans can see it, but apparently
That would be really unusual.
that would be really creepy. By the way, I encourage everybody who listens to this to also use the articles and the little snippets and our snark as fodder for NaNoWriMo. I'm actually I'm doing this myself, so although I am nearly 4,000 words behind, yikes. If you take the headlines and it stimulates your creative juices into writing, you can have 10 little snippets that you can expound upon to create your novel for NaNoWriMo.
That's right, and you could do a really creative story if you wound all of them into one story from one episode.
Yeah, and if for your first time in particular, unless you really are just excellent writer, it can be a disjointed mess of short stories put together, and maybe you can massage it in the future into a transition paragraphs and stuff.
That's not the bar we were going for to begin with.
This is like it's written by an AI. Oh, it is written by an AI. So if you're into conspiracies, HAARP, which is what is it called? High atmosphere. I can't remember what it stands for. Let's see.
High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
That's right. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It's powered by the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and they throw high energy physics into the atmosphere and research the impact of it. And there is massive amounts of conspiracy theory around this. I mean, if you want something to stimulate conspiracy theory juices, HAARP is definitely it. So it even says it right here on the darn article. Hello.
That's not where I got it from, by the way.
I know, I did a search too. I'm an idiot. So let's go over to phys.org, Rod Boyce, University of Alaska Fairbanks. So something like this on the ground doesn't really help you to calm your nerves. HAARP's ionospheric research instrument is a phased array of 180 high-frequency antennas spread across 33 acres. My software-defined radio consists of 5 antennas spread across about 5 square feet. So I'm basically a micro HAARP.
You have a more efficient system than HAARP then.
Yeah, sure. That'll help me sleep at night. Sure. I have HAARP envy. Hold on a second. Let me throw this into the chat. So, scientists from University of Alaska Fairbanks, Cornell University, University of Colorado Denver, University of Florida, and Georgia Institute of Technology will conduct a variety of experiments at the UAF-operated research site. The experiments will focus on the ionosphere, a region of the atmosphere between 30 and 350 miles above the Earth's surface. They're going to investigate the ionosphere mechanisms that cause optical emissions. So some of the conspiracy theory around this is that it's basically a quantum weapon, and it can be used to stimulate the atmosphere in a way to cause things like explosions and plasma creation and tornadoes and hurricanes and all kinds of stuff. It's quite fascinating what people will go to, the extremes that they'll go to when they don't understand what's going on. Now, just to really get the conspiracy theory juices going, they don't necessarily deny that it's possible to do this stuff, because they say that they can actually create, they impart energy into the ionosphere, into our atmosphere at a high altitude. So people have extrapolated, wait, you do stuff way up there into, you're going to create a black hole and it's going to destroy the entire universe. Well, it's a simulation, so the physics won't allow it. But anyway, HAARP creates airglow by exciting electrons in Earth's ionosphere, similar to how solar energy creates natural aurora. With on and off pulses, the high frequency radio transmissions are going to make the atmosphere glow. So they're going to create what amounts to aurora. It's going to be pretty interesting. A phased array of 180 high-frequency antennas spread across 33 acres can radiate 3.6 megawatts into the upper atmosphere and ionosphere. That's probably not its real limit, but nobody's going to sit there and say, this is what it's doing. The National Science Foundation in 2021 awarded the UAF Geophysical Institute a 5-year, $9.3 million grant to establish the Subaurora Geophysical Observatory at HAARP. We have that here in ohmTown, by the way. It's, like I said, it's a smaller budget one. We spend about $20 a month. Yeah. That's the ohmTown Science Foundation.
Is it the tabletop one, or is it in the full ohmTown studio?
No, it's about 5 square feet of space. Yeah. So the grant has supported several HAARP research campaigns, including the one that we're talking about right now. It's also helped fund the return to HAARP of the Polar Aeronomy and Radio Science Summer School, which hosted more than 50 researchers in August. So this is
wonder what the applications for that look like.
They're learning to play the harp. Let's keep going. This next article is going to be really quick. I actually watched this with a group of people, and this is over in Warcrafters. Blizzard announces World of Warcraft and its next 3 expansions. Quote, and I heard this in real time, "We ain't screwing around," declares Chris Metzen. Chris Metzen made a full-throated return to the World of Warcraft spotlight today, commanding the BlizzCon 2023 stage to announce not just one World of Warcraft expansion, please help me, but 3 expansions that will make up the World Soul Saga. Let's go over to PC Gamer. This actually, there's a lot of sites that are talking about this. This is the one that we chose. Tyler Wilde, quote, "We are working to establish a thundering heartbeat for this franchise. The return World of Warcraft creative director said. That's Chris Menson. This video, the cinematic that is linked in the article, and let me grab this real quick and throw that into, and I'm gonna refresh this so that we have the right logo. See, blink. Man, I did a really good job when I scaled that to the right size. That's pretty amazing. Mayor Watt, you're just a little good at a whole lot of stuff, right? Anyway, y'all should go and watch this. Yes, I said y'all. You should all go and watch this. It is spectacular. The War Within announced cinematic. It's just amazing. I can't really gush more about this. But the next 3 expansions, and I don't know when they're all coming. They didn't actually say when they're all coming, but I think the earliest one isn't coming until after 2024, like late 2024. The War Within, Midnight, and The Last Titan. So they go into greater detail during the presentation. It's probably over on YouTube right now. This, but people actually paid to attend BlizzCon, and this main area that this announcement was made in only held 5,000 people, and it was a random assignment, so not everybody was allowed in. So people got kind of bent out of shape about that, by the way. Anyway, I love World of Warcraft. I used to really be hardcore into it. I had to stop playing it when I went through business school, because I was basically saying, I don't need to show up for class. I've bought the expansions as they've come out, but then it just got kind of grindy, and I didn't like that. I love the storytelling behind it, not going through, dungeon after dungeon or instance after instance, so to speak. So hopefully they return to the story, and I will get back into this, but obviously not as hardcore as everybody else. It's just,
by the way, this does start in 2024.
Gotcha.
That doesn't say when in 2024.
Yeah, so Blizzard, it says at the very bottom of the article, actually. Thanks for pointing it out. Blizzard didn't give the War Within a date except 2024, but that hasn't stopped it from offering pre-purchases, which come with the current expansion, Dragonflight, and the usual spreadsheet of accoutrements. It says you find those details and more on the War Within's features on their official site, but I think it should have been you can find those details. Anyway, the War Within has its own overview, and you should go and check it out. I loved everything about what I saw today for this, particularly the War Within announcement cinematic is spectacular. I wish that they would just do movies. Just start making World of Warcraft movies, please. The world building is spectacular. You might as well expand on it into movies. Everyone.
Well, I feel like the time is now for any gaming related movies.
Yep.
It seems like there's been a real trend of those.
Yep, I think so too. I will definitely I'll be there. I may not go to the movie theater, because I think movie theater, except for special circumstances, I think movie theaters are a bygone age. We have large home theaters now. Like, large TVs are relatively inexpensive. You can get really, really powerful home theater speakers relatively inexpensively. And then you pay $20 and you get the movie at home. And it's in 4K and high quality speakers and whatnot. Anyway, but I know that large crowds and all of that, it's the hype thing. So let's play some catch up here. I know that the AI would like to go and see World of Warcraft.
As a movie?
as a movie. Yeah. And play it.
Might be great.
Yeah, you probably would like to play it too. Don't worry, I'll carry you through it. So the next article is over in Smack Talk. That's because it has to do with Apple. Get it? See the MAC Mac Smack Talk. Oh boy, yeah. I guess if I have to explain it, it's not really funny. So Washington D.C. is using AirTags to crack down on car thefts.
Okay, this is at least the second city we've seen doing this.
Yep. Chance Miller over at 9to5mac.com put the article together. The report explains that DC Mayor Muriel Bowser announced a new program Wednesday that will provide free tracking tags for residents in certain neighborhoods to put on their cars, making them easier to locate if they get stolen. The tracking tags, which are literally Apple AirTags, will be distributed to residents living in neighborhoods with high numbers of vehicle theft. They'll be offered at 3 different events over the coming months. Proof of residency and an address that corresponds with an eligible police service area will be required to receive a tag. The thing about it is, an iPhone will be notified if there is an air tracker, an AirTag near it. And then you can find it and then just smash it and you're done. Now, it might be interesting that your iPhone will be pinging everything all over the freaking place, but maybe not. I actually haven't looked into this all too much. I've never been requested to do anything involving an AirTag, and I haven't really looked into it, but you may be able to turn off the cellular communications and still locate an AirTag that's sitting idle around you too long. That's kind of the purpose of this. If your device, if your iPhone or Android phone detects an AirTag for a sustained period of time, it basically says, hey, there's an AirTag following you around. And then you can just locate it. And you can do that with a software-defined radio as well, because it's always broadcasting a little ping like, hey, I'm right here. Hey, I'm right here. So at the distribution events, the Washington, D.C. police will help residents install the AirTag in their cars. Not sure where they're going to end up putting it. But regardless of where it is, unless it's in a place that is inaccessible to humans, there will be a way to locate it and remove it. But it's about friction. So if you make it a real pain in the butt to steal a car, then people won't steal cars.
Or they'll go for like the Hyundais and the Kias, right?
Which don't have any security.
And rather easy to steal.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know what? I think this is also interesting given the location, because DC is actually having a rash of carjackings, not just thefts.
Yeah,
like they have regular carjackings in the news.
Yeah, that senator.
So maybe this will be a deterrent. I don't know.
Yeah. A little bit of friction goes a long way in stopping it. Now, what's going to end up happening is either you get a better mousetrap, somebody brings a jammer, or you get the one numbnuts that's entirely without any coping mechanism and has nothing to lose and takes the car by force. Technology be damned. So you're either going to get smarter mice or you're going to get the dumbest mice. And the dumbest mice are the ones that end up being violent. Let's keep going. Today. Man. I stopped the transition. The next article is over in the Mobile channel. What's the status of the bill to make daylight saving time permanent? Well, apparently a bill to do so hit a brick wall in the House last year, despite passing the Senate by unanimous consent. The bill, the Sunshine Protection Act, was reintroduced in March by Senator Marco Rubio in the Senate, and Rep. Vern Buchanan introduced companion legislation in the House. So the article here is over at thehill.com. Tara Suter is the author. As the end of daylight saving time looms this year, the U.S. Congress is still hung up on whether to make it permanent. The bill to do so hit that brick wall. The ritual of changing time twice a year is stupid. Locking the clock has overwhelming bipartisan and popular support. This Congress, I hope that we can finally get this done, Rubio said in a statement on the reintroduction. Gone are the days where this is actually important.
Well, that's what I don't understand. Like, who is really pushing for this to remain in the current setup? It's based on really old information, I think.
Yeah. So it says in 1966, Congress passed the Uniform Time Act, which made daylight saving time the standard. In late 1973, President Nixon signed an emergency bill turning daylight saving time into law, making it year-round, as a national energy crisis was occurring. This is the late 70s when the oil embargo and oil crises hit. It was designed to try and combat the crisis by cutting demand, but people became worried about children's safety as they went to school in the winter dark. President Gerald Ford signed a bill bringing the U.S. back to standard time for 4 months of the year in October 1974. Both the House and Senate version of the Sunshine Protection Act of 2023 haven't appeared to go far. The Senate bill has been read twice and referred to a committee, while the House bill has only been referred to a subcommittee. Here's the problem, though. It isn't like this can just be resolved. Okay? Oh, look, this is dumb. We have technology. You know, whatever. LED lights have mitigated the whole national energy crisis, even though there are people that it's incandescent or bust, because the LED lights are typically on the bluer side, not full spectrum. At any rate, this is overcome by technology. Why don't we just allow life to go on as a standard operating procedure as time? 1 second is 1 second. We don't sit there and mess around backing things up and pushing things forward and messing with the clocks and whatnot. I think that it's stupid. Time waits for no one. It marches on regardless of how we set the clocks. Just leave it the hell alone.
Well, we have so many issues based on the changes to the time.
Yeah.
And I just don't really see the overall gain, particularly given all the modern technology that we have. I mean, how many kids are really going to school on their own, for example, in the morning?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just don't...
Because that's one of the reasons cited.
If we have a problem with children going to school in the dark or going home in the dark, then maybe we need to fix the time when children are going to school, which is already a problem. We've already had this issue. We've talked about it before. Children don't operate at that early time frame. They need to actually come to school at 9 o'clock, not, and many of us don't even operate in that 9 to 5 mode anyway for peak performance. But we get forced into this box for commercial sake. But the reason I never really got to my point, which is the reason why this can't just get voted is because people want to sit there and banter back and forth about what you're going to give me if I agree to your bill. Well, don't do this for you. Do this for the people. Do this for the citizenry. Do this for everybody else. This is probably the most innocuous switch where, greed and control shouldn't be involved in this decision. Just fast track this through and don't sit there and try and get riders and people to capitulate to some request. Politics. Let's just keep going. Gotta play catch up. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. The FDA proposed a ban on brominated vegetable oil. Here's how to tell if it's in your food and why the FDA thinks it's unsafe to drink. Let me summarize what this is. Brominated vegetable oil allows things to stay in suspension. but they've given it to lab animals and it's messed with their thyroid, causing cancer and other issues with their thyroid gland. So the U.S. Food and Drug Administration announced it wants to ban the additive brominated vegetable oil. The product helps stabilize citrus flavor in some sodas and juices, but it can build up in the body. A final decision will be made in the coming year, but other countries have long since banned it. We don't like banning things because there's a profit to be had, and it's at your health. So you, dear citizen, need to speak out. And what you don't know will hurt you. It's not something that's somebody else's problem. This is directly your problem. But you have been drinking this for decades and didn't know about it. You know, I certainly didn't know that brominated vegetable oil is carcinogenic, essentially. So Jenny McGrath and Maya Falk over at businessinsider.com. I may be pronouncing their last name incorrectly, but until they correct me, I'm only giving it that old Harvard try. I never went to Harvard. Let's throw this into chat. Oh, wait. This one first. Blink. Sorry, folks, if you're in chat or if you're over in YouTube. Sorry, I didn't throw this into the chat and the video is going to be kind of blah. Anyway, so yeah, we're back at Business Insider, which is the source for this. Food companies have been using the additive BVO, as it's known, since the 20s. The agency concluded that the intended use of BVO in food is no longer considered safe after the results of studies conducted in collaboration with the National Institutes of Health found that potential adverse health effects in humans. Done and done. So in October, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law prohibiting the sale of food or drink items with BVO and other ingredients like red dye 3 and potassium bromate. So when you buy something that has BVO or red dye 3 or potassium bromate in some other state, you will see on the label that it is illegal to be sold in California now. You can make comments, but how can you tell what drinks contain BVO? In the years following, it listed BVO as generally recognized as safe. That's in 1958. Over the years, new data showed potential health effects, and the FDA removed it from the GRAS list. In the 60s, the agency limited its use as a stabilizer that couldn't exceed the level of 15 parts per million. So if you want to avoid the BVO as a contaminant, you should check the ingredients in sodas, fruit drinks, lemonade, and juices. Basically, BVO keeps these various materials in solution so they don't separate. When used, BVO is required to be listed as an ingredient on the label as brominated vegetable oil or as the specific oil that has been brominated, like brominated soybean oil. Let me see. Hold on a second. I want to find out something.
Well, listed one specific brand in there that used to have it but didn't, and that was almost 10 years ago, which is kind of concerning because if the industry already realized that quite a while ago, why is this just an issue now?
Well, I mean, because there's been enough people paying attention to it. So I just realized why I know what this is. Brominated means that it's been treated with bromine, and bromine is a dark red fuming toxic liquid with a choking, irritating smell. This stuff is normally encapsulated. It actually is like this heavy reddish orange gas, and it actually becomes really lighter or invisible when it's cooled down. And I've actually watched demonstrations of this. So this stuff is not good. But when it's in small enough percentages or amounts, parts, then it's apparently generally accepted, except that we know that these little toxic bits are always toxic. It's just like energy. It's not created or destroyed, it changes, and the toxicity of this is just smaller, and then it builds up in our system, and apparently primarily in our thyroid. So BVO side effects, they monitored it since the 70s, and they talk about anecdotal reports of people visiting the hospital with telltale signs of bromine poisoning: headache, fatigue, memory loss, problems walking. In one 1997 case, doctors determined that the patient had gotten the condition from drinking 2 to 4 liters of soda with BVO in it a day. You shouldn't be drinking 2 to 4 liters of soda a day anyway. That's not good for you. But apparently
no, but the only thing that's not disconcerting about that is that's a huge amount of soda intake. But that doesn't tell you that you don't have those same problems at lower levels.
What's funny, though, about this is that if I would have just scrolled to the rest of the article, it would have talked about bromine. But I was like, wait, I recognize brominated. I've never worked with the material, but I have always heard that it's really horrendous stuff. So in 2022, a report published in the journal Food and Chemical Toxicology, the FDA found that BVO may build up in mice thyroids over time. There it goes, becoming toxic. So they conducted these tests with mice, not humans. The agency deemed its results were significant enough to recommend against the use of BVO in food. So there you go, folks. And I really wish there wouldn't be a component of people out there that go, well, it was fine for 70 years. Why, or actually 100 years, why now? Come on, man. Science.
It's called advancements
education
in science and technology.
How can you be that willfully ignorant? It's just like smoking. How can anybody smoke in this day and age? It's not anecdotal. Even alcohol, if you drink too much alcohol, it is a poison. Alcohol is a poison in the bloodstream. That is why why it has a deleterious effect. That's why you end up acting the way you act, is because your blood is contaminated and your brain is trying to cope with it. Your body is trying to cope with it. You throw up because you've consumed too much and your body is revolting. It's a funny turn of phrase. But it's the same thing with this, and same thing with so many other things. It's been marketed to us as okay, and then you have to claw back cognitive function. Think about it for a minute. This stuff is bad for you, just like plastic is bad for us, yet it's pervasive, and trying to undo this is going to be a nightmare for the economy and society. Well, at least we can mandate that this shit gets out of the system. So let's keep going, though. This is your PSA for the day, I suppose. Next article is over in ohmTown Daily. NASA sent a spaceship rocketing by an asteroid and discovered the space rock has a little baby dancing around it. I don't know why they coined the phrase like that it was a baby dancing around it. So there's going to be a render of NASA's Lucy spacecraft, and images of a binary asteroid system, Dinkinesh, nicknamed Dinky. Let's just go over. A Business Insider is the source of this again. Sonam Sheth is the author. This is a render. So apparently this thing has enough gravitational force to have a little satellite floating around it. Pretty neat. The Lucy spacecraft returned images showing that the asteroid Dinkinesh is actually a binary asteroid system, meaning that there are 2 asteroids orbiting a common center. In this case, the system features asteroids of different sizes, one much smaller than the other. What's interesting, though, is that the that we threw dart at a binary system, a binary asteroid, how many of these are big enough that they've got little asteroids orbiting around them? And what is going to be the impact if we mess around with these things?
Exactly. I didn't even know asteroids could have a binary system. I mean, I've heard of that with stars, for example, until recently when we've been talking about some of this. But
yeah, pretty interesting, right? Lucy flew by the asteroid system at a speed of 10,000 miles per hour, NASA said. The researchers working on the spacecraft had suspected that Dinkinish might be a binary pair because of the way its brightness changed over time. The images the spacecraft returned confirmed their theory, according to the news release. I love this stuff. We are throwing a bus at, something that might be a couple of, 100 yards in size, because they're not all miles long, so we're throwing something at something thousands of miles away at speeds of 10,000 miles per hour with a camera that's supposed to take a picture and send it back out in space. And we're doing this using nothing more than math, because it's not like you can do fast pivots, oh shit, we're missing the asteroid, let's change direction real quick. I mean, it's not, a car, it's not a Tesla, There is a Tesla out there though, somewhere in space. How stupid. Anyway. Quote,
tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, I usually do. This is an awesome series of images. Tom Kennedy, a guidance and navigation engineer at Lockheed Martin in Colorado, said in the news release they indicate that the terminal tracking system worked as intended, even when the universe presented us with a more difficult target than we expected. Yeah, that's amazing. Now I'm waiting for an AI to automatically decide where to go and how to navigate. Can you imagine? You just pick the target and it heads there. Makes all of the course changes.
Amazing. We're probably not that far off from that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure somebody is. So one last thing before we move on to the next article. It says here, quote, when Lucy was originally selected for flight, we planned to fly by 7 asteroids with the addition of Dinkinish, 2 Trojan moons, and now this satellite. We've turned it up to 11. Dun, dun, dun. Let's keep going. Next article is over in ohmTown Daily. I'm refreshing it because our logo has changed. Just reminding everybody. Large flying reptile that ruled the sky 100 million years ago, found by a lake. It's over at newsweek.com. Aristos Georgiou is the author of this. They have a video here, but it has like people in modern buildings and then these flying whatever, like it looks like a pterosaur or whatever. Oh, look, it is. So pterosaurs and dinosaurs both belong to a larger group known as archosaurs, which also count birds and crocodiles as members. Pterosaurs are notable for being the first vertebrates or animals with backbones to evolve flight capabilities. Hey, have you ever heard of the dinosaur that had the ability to speak?
No.
Yeah, it was called a thesaurus. It never shut up. It was always use these really elaborate words and stuff. Yeah, nobody liked it. People really, they cheered when the asteroid hit Earth. They're like, yes, please, finally wipe us out. God. Sesquipedalian was... it's evolved. It was kind of like a Pokemon. This week, a team of paleontologists announced the discovery of pterosaur remains from the province of Rio Negro in the Patagonia region of southern Argentina. I'm probably pronouncing this wrong. I always put the pt in there as emphasis or emphasis. It's probably just pterosaur. but I always say it pterosaur just because it has a P in there. I don't like saying it without the pter. Anyway, the incomplete vertebrae bone described in a journal article published in the magazine of the Argentine Museum of Natural Sciences. That's a very niche journal. Anyway, it was discovered in rocks from a geological formation that dates back to between 190 million years ago. Remember, the past ramps up to 0, not
Right. So yeah. That's why it looks weird when it's like 100 million and 90 million instead of the other way around.
correct. Yeah. But you can say 190 million years ago, and it's a different time frame than
Right.
between 100 and 90 million. Anyway, the bones are very fragile. Their preservation has been difficult. Federico Agnolin, one of the authors of the latest study affiliated with the Laboratory of Comparative Anatomy and Vertebrate Evolution, or LASEV, at the Argentine Museum of Natural Sciences, Bernardino Rivadavia, among other institutions, said in a statement to Argentine media. Okay, so for this one quote, they threw 4 extra lines of provenance. Anyway, pretty cool. But apparently it is a pterosaur or a pterosaur. So a flying dinosaur. Pretty cool. Several other, I don't know how to pronounce this. Asdarchid, I think, is the actual classification of it. Asdarchid. Species have previously been documented in Argentina, such as Aerotitan sudamericanus, which, if this is if this is what I infer from the name, it is a massive flying dinosaur.
South American dinosaur, yeah.
Yeah. Also from the province of Rio Negro, but much more recent, living around 70 million years ago, the Natodracan Amaru from the province of Mendoza, which roamed the skies around 85 million years ago. So that's, what is it? Thunder Dragon? I think.
I don't know what that means.
Or no, wait. Isn't Thanatos related to like dying? Isn't that what that means?
I know what you're thinking of, but I think that's a different word. Oh, no, it's the personification of death. I was mixed up.
Yeah. So it's Death Lizard. I think that's what that is. Thanatos.
I mean, that's kind of daunting. Like, if you want a battle name or whatever, Death Lizard is where it's at.
My new nom de guerre is Thanatos Draken.
That would deter other dinosaurs, I think.
Yeah, really.
I'm Death Dragon. Death Lizard, sorry.
Yeah, Death Lizard. I think that's what that means. So the creature from the banks of the Ezequiel Ramos Mexia Reservoir, however, dates back even further. So all of this should be fodder for your NaNoWriMo adventures, folks. So let's drop this into the chat. You can check that out at your leisure. We have 2 more articles, so let's get into them. The next article is over in the Greenogram channel. You smell your coffee in stereo. The brain records an odor's spatial information. I titled this segment Spatial Nosewareness. Come on. That's epic.
It's important to have nosewareness.
Okay, so I'm going to warn everybody who might be watching the video. I have to scroll down and we look right down the double barrel of somebody's nose. Not too happy about it myself. Yeah, talk about nosewareness. We now know that this person, well, we know exactly the depth of their nose. Scent information from the 2 nostrils lead to 2 types of neural activity. I thought that this was like a known, by the way, because when you sniff the air, your next action is to turn your head in the perceived direction of where you think the smell is coming from. Now try that. The next time you smell something, pay attention to what you do. Now I'm triggering you into a call to action. You're going to remember this. If you hear my voice, you are going to remember this. You're going to sniff something and you're going to turn your head in the perceived direction, the immediate perceived direction of where you think your brain is telling you, oh, it must be coming from this direction. And I swear this was already unknown. So I was really, I was like, okay, I gotta read this article to find out. I haven't read it yet though. So Saima Sadiq is the author of this over at nature.com. I have to scroll fast above this. I don't even want to. When the scent of morning coffee wafts past the nose, the brain encodes which nostril it enters, new research shows. Integrating information from both nostrils might help us to identify the odor. The results were published today in Current Biology. The region of the brain called the piriform cortex, which spans the brain's two hemispheres, is known to receive and process information about scents. However, scientists were unsure whether the two sides of the piriform cortex react to smells in unison or independently. Again, I go right back to Big Bang Theory and what's her name?
Amy Farrah Fowler.
Amy Farrah Fowler. Because right when I read that, my brain said, Amy Farrah Fowler wants to cut your head open and examine your brain. One of the episodes that we watched recently, she's like singing in the lab while she's like, I'm cutting your head open. Anyway, to investigate the question, researchers recruited people with epilepsy who were undergoing brain surgery to identify the areas of their brains responsible for their seizures. Participants were awake for the surgery, during which the scientists delivered scents to one or both nostrils through the tiny tubes that reached roughly 1 centimeter into each nostril. The authors took advantage of electrodes placed in the study participants' brains to take readings of activity in the piriform cortex. By the way, your brain doesn't feel anything. So people freaking out that, oh my gosh, they're like poking and jabbing and all of that kind of stuff. Your brain doesn't have any sensory organs. It only receives the signal and transmits and processes the signals.
That's odd.
Yeah. So you can sit there and poke and whatever, and in reality, scents rarely hit only one nostril. Instead, they're likely to enter one nostril slightly ahead of the other. The question to ask is, well, can the brain exploit these potential differences? And says Naz Dikaklegel. That's a hell of a name. I don't know how to pronounce it. I hope I'm giving it justice. A neuroscientist at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia and co-author of the study asked this question. So the findings suggest that the brain does make use of the different arrival times. When an odor was delivered to a single nostril, the side of the brain closest to that nostril reacted first, and a reaction then followed in the opposite side of the brain. There seems to actually be two odor representations corresponding to odor information coming from each nostril. So now I'm really curious about just what that implies. You know, it's an immediate response, and then there's one that's cognitively processing what it might be. And I wonder, like, I'm curious. It says it's rare to get to see electrical recordings directly from the human olfactory cortex, says Kevin Boulding, a neuroscientist at Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia. So now I want to know if they have data that says in the other nostril, is it a close response and then a far response? Or
right,
is
and
that...
if it's so close in time, can you even really notice that as a person? I mean, besides like studying your brain.
Oh, I don't know. See, that's really interesting. But I know anecdotally, when I smell something, I instantly smell again, but I turn in the direction that I perceive it. Like, what is that? Am I smelling? Is that gas? Is that a fire? Is that, you know?
And I would have assumed you'd just face it like directly straight forward, not toward the side, for instance.
Yeah, but you may not receive the data. It may waft in from an angle and you go, what? Like that, right? You follow coffee, the smell of coffee, you know? Just kind of float down the stairs to get to the kitchen so that you can get your cup of coffee. Yeah, this is pretty fascinating. All right, folks. So we have one more article. What do you think it's going to be about?
Let's see. It's gonna be about a movie.
Sure.
I don't
If
know
you
what
write
the
about
last
it
article
and then
is.
get it published. Nope.
Oh,
This is in the Marvel Channel. Climate change is turning swaths of California's mountains into zombie forests. You may not know what that means, but we'll show you a picture and we'll talk about it for a little bit. There's something eerie about this forest in southern Sierra Nevada. Tangles of bony branches obscure the ground. Dead trees stand gray and bristly. An aura of doom. I like saying it like that. An aura of doom hangs over the green conifers that remain. And the source of this is Alex Wigglesworth, which really ruins that dimension of zombie.
that's definitely a Harry Potter name.
Yeah, that's an awesome name, though. God, so many people have some really great names. Mayor Watt. That's not it's not really a fascinating name. Ian James, Los Angeles Times, and Alex Wigglesworth. God, it's just such an awesome pen name. I mean, obviously it's their real name, but I don't know why sometimes I kind of just really belabor an author's names. They're just so awesome. Anyway, the expansive Sierra National Forest near Shaver Lake is a relic of the climate before global warming. Scientists believe that the conifers won't be able to survive the current conditions. Researchers at Stanford University found a recent study that roughly 1/5 of all conifer forests in the Sierra are mismatched with a warmer climate and have become zombie forests. The name zombie forest is kind of kitschy, but the author has come to find that it's haunting, says ecologist Avery Hill. Sorry, not the author, but an ecologist named Avery Hill who co-wrote the study while pursuing a doctorate at Stanford. So there is a study out there. Let me see if it was published up there or if it's published. It says where it's published later. Yeah, well, we'll get to it, I suppose. Hill combed his way through a thicket one afternoon and paused at a clearing overlooking a valley, its pine-studded slopes dotted with boulders ringed by patches of shrubby chaparral. That's what we think will spread out and eventually cover this whole area. It's going to desertify, I guess. All of the green and the trees are dying, turning into zombie forests, which I suppose in millions of years is going to be the new equivalent of fossilized forests.
Oh, right, like petrified forests.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, right? If it survives. I mean, it would have to get buried. Like, apparently everything gets buried. Sorry.
In sediment?
Yeah. Entire mountains just kind of crumble and then fill in everything that might have been upright. It's weird. Look around. Easter Island. Yeah. When these forests burn in high severity wildfires or are wiped out by drought, disease, or pests, they will likely be replaced by other types of trees and brush, the scientists said. That could dramatically slash how much carbon the region can store, provide a habitat for invasive species, and displace plants and animals that call the forest home. Knowing exactly where such changes might take place can help land managers prioritize where to resist the changes and where to accept or even accelerate them. I don't know why you would accelerate what nature is doing naturally. Just leave the shit alone. If it is nature,
we haven't learned our lesson from all the things we've messed with.
Manipulate. As if we know exactly what the long-term ramifications are of doing something as simple as diverting a river with a dam. Wingnuts.
Right.
Anyway, different types of forest burn in different ways, and knowing what will grow here or where could help authorities plan for fires, Hill said. For instance, chaparral historically supports catastrophic fire on average every 40 to 50 years versus 150 to 200 years for conifer forests, so maybe around communities you'd prefer to have a well-managed conifer forest. Or, don't promote climate change to the point where it's killing off conifer.
Exactly. Maybe we could make some changes and kind of preserve plants and animals, but
No, I suppose at this point, somebody like this is talking about mitigation and maybe anticipation, and like the person that was in that Florida fire, or the not Florida, it was the Hawaiian fire, where they put rocks around the perimeter because they were told that that would save their house, and sure shit, it saved their house. So
right.
Anyway, Hill agreed, but said the researchers chose to focus primarily on climate because it's the foundational condition that determines whether a tree can grow in a particular place. Quote, that has altered the structure and composition of these forests and made them vulnerable to wildfires, to drought, and to warmer temperatures, she said. And certainly climate is a huge and important driver in all of this, but that doesn't mean that there aren't levers that we can be pulling that aren't directly associated with carbon reduction to help protect these forests or restore these ecosystems. Yeah, but I think that it's a guessing game. While it might be educated, we don't know what the ramifications are of climate change ultimately, other than it's going to be a lot of pain and suffering. And when we sit there and say, well, we can plant this tree here, it may stop the recovery that nature will provide as time goes on. Or, like we said at the beginning of this, the bigger issue is stop climate change. But you can't have 800 million people in one country actively trying to solve climate change, and then billions, 7.5 billion people everywhere else just throwing everything into the fire and saying YOLO, because YOLO, you literally only live once.
Well, exactly. And what somebody's doing in another location is obviously impacting elsewhere. So.
Exactly. Unless you believe in reincarnation, and then you only live a whole bunch of times till you're done with your karma.
Yeah, but then your planet might not be there.
Yeah, you come back as an alien somewhere else. All right, enough of that. Let's go back into the party bus and drive back down Main Street. We refresh. Hopefully some really positive news on the front page, although things seem really winky-hinky. Genshin Impact version 4.2 launches on November 8th, adding Farina, Charlotte, and the climax of Fontaine's storyline. I haven't played Genshin Impact since, 2 hours after I tried it. All kinds of stuff. That's okay though. How Attack of the Clones set up Ashoka. I don't know why I always do that. Ahsoka's.
You're losing your
Jedi
Star Wars card there.
I know. All right. Well, that's it. I think we've got more than enough articles that we'll be able to present you tomorrow at 6 p.m. All things landing properly. But that's it for today. I hope you all enjoy the show. If you haven't, be sure to follow us here on Twitch, twitch.tv/ohmTown. Go over to YouTube, youtube.com/ohmTown. Click on the links that are in the show notes for the podcast and for Discord and the Patreon. And just join up and let us know you're there, and say hi and all of that kind of stuff. Would really appreciate it. leave a review over on the podcast, wherever, Apple specifically, and I will reread what you write in your review, whatever it is, as long as it's a 5-star. If it's 1, then you're dead to me, but if it's 5, even if it's something negative, I will read it verbatim, as long as it's not bad, like socially unacceptable. Unless it's really funny and socially unacceptable, then I'll say it. All right.
You're going to get some interesting feedback.
I hope so. It would be funny. I'm Merwatt. That's ohmTown.com with the new logo. And up above me is the sentient AI that's always looking over ohmTown. You want to say bye-bye?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. I'm not sure I can make that sound. We will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Are you done?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to try to say that?
I'm sorry?
I said, do you want me to try to say that?
Sure.
Bye! Not even close.